The King of the Storm and Nameless King boss fights are the hardest bosses in Dark Souls 3 in my opinion, but if you follow this guide closely, it should make the fight a lot easier. Like any boss in Dark Souls 3, the trick to beating them is understanding their patterns. In this clip, I'm showing my very first run through the boss, and I want to show you the mistakes I made during it. Now in this clip right here, he flies around you and then throws a lightning bolt at you. It's important to note the timing of when he actually throws the spear. Right there, it looks like he's going to throw the spear, but what he actually does is hold in place for a little while to throw your timing off, and then he throws it, making most players dodge when actually they needed to wait a couple seconds before dodging. Immediately after this attack, he will always do this lunging sweep attack right towards you. The only way to dodge this attack is to roll forward and slightly to the left to get out of range. Then usually after that attack, depending on the RNG or randomly generated number, he will either try to lunge towards you or swing his spear sword at you twice. The easiest way to deal with this attack is to roll northwest. After he does this attack, the dragon head will give you a brief moment to counterattack and do some damage. Now this part of the boss usually follows the same pattern, so he might try to do this fire breath attack at you, which you simply have to walk to the left and then start hitting the side of his head. It's important to know, like any boss, that his attack patterns are random though, so he might try to lunge at you with his sword spear again, so just watch out for that. It's important to note when fighting this stage of the boss not to go underneath the dragon's feet at any time. If you do, he will always jump up in the air and do a fire breath attack at your feet that is impossible to dodge. Keeping a good distance away from him, however, will make it so that he never does this attack. The best time to counterattack is usually right after the dragon lands or after the Nameless King does an attack. Right here is the best time to start attacking the head. You want to switch to two-hand and then lunge at him with your rapier or whatever weapon you're using. It's at this point that the Nameless King will probably try to start slashing at you, and if you dodge those, you get another free shot at the dragon's head for a brief moment of time. I didn't notice these things on my first run, and so he knocked me into the ground. Once you've done enough damage to the King of Storms, he will fall to the ground, enabling you to do a riposte on his eye. This usually kills him, but if you've done really well in the fight, you'll get it at about half his HP bar. After we've killed the dragon, the real fight begins. If there's one word I can use to describe the Nameless King boss fight, it is brutal. This guy is a freaking monster, and he wants you to know it. At the start of the fight, he's going to do these long-range wind attacks at you. You can actually roll right through them. It's a little weird, but if you don't dodge, they do a lot of damage. After that, he'll do a long-range lunge attack at you. The best way to deal with this, as with the dragon boss fight, is to roll directly towards him to avoid any damage. The windows for counterattack with this boss are incredibly small, which is why this is such a hard boss fight. You'll usually only be able to get 1 or 2 hits in, maybe 3, but that's being really, really greedy. Now this right here is the Nameless King's favorite combo. He lunges forward, and then immediately he turns around and follows up with a counterattack. I like to call this move the Noob Killer 5000. After he turns around and you see him charging at you, roll to the right just before his lightning sword spear hits, and then he's going to follow up, so you want to roll forward and to the right again. But he's not done yet. As you can see, this combo is extremely long and very deadly, and it had killed me many times throughout my playthrough. The final setup I used for this boss was the Erythial Rapier, the Spirit Tree Crest Shield, the Dancer's Helmet, the Legion Armor, the Gauntlets of Thorns, the Silver Knight Leggings, the Ring of Steel Protection, the Chlorothy Ring, Havel's Ring, and Ring of Favor and Protection. I was level 76 for this build, and I also had under 50% burden so that I could have that mid-fast roll, and there's my stats right there as well. Now here's footage from my last attempt at the boss before I finally killed him, so let's see how I do. I pop an Ember to make sure I'm topped off for full HP, and then we see what type of pattern the boss is going to do. So he goes behind me and he tries to Thunder Smash me, but I roll forward and then start attacking the dragon's head. After that he counterattacks with his sword spear, but I roll forward and I'm able to get another couple of hits off on the dragon head. Then he uses Fire Breath, so I run to the left, avoiding that, and get a bunch of hits off with a two-handed L1. This is enough damage to trigger the riposte, and so I run up to the left and I press R1 to initiate the attack. Then I throw a fireball at him because I'm tired of his shit. And then after a couple L1s, he's dead. At the start of the Nameless King boss fight, you want to run towards him and then roll right before he lunges forward. Rolling forward and to the right is the best way to avoid his attack and also lets you counterattack for a couple hits. From here, it's all about dodging his attacks and making sure that you can counterattack without losing HP. Rolling to his right, I've found, is the best way to circle around him, and when he does that lunging attack, you just gotta pray that you don't get hit. It's worth noting that after a lunging attack, he does leave himself open for a long period of time, so if you're close enough, you are able to get a couple hits off. Because of this boss's damage output, it is critical that you do not lose any Estus in the first part of the fight, so that you can save them all for him. Since he likes to use Noob Killer 5000 so much, that's usually when you're able to get a couple hits in, but be careful not to get greedy like I just did. If you're too far away to hit him after he does a lunging attack, make sure to heal up if you're low. Now when he flies up in the air, you want to get away from him as soon as possible because he's going to do a ground slam that does tons of damage. He'll also do this really cool anime shit where he like trails through the dust at super high speeds and then lunges at you. He is freaking awesome. Anyways, it's also important to note that you don't have to dodge all of his attacks. If you're using the Spirit Tree Crest Shield, it does absorb a significant amount of lightning damage, which enables you to take a hit and then immediately counterattack. From here, it's really just all about dodging his attacks at the right time, making sure you don't get hit by his ground slam, and blocking when your stamina allows it to get in a counterattack or two. Other than that, there's really no other tips I can give you for this boss. A lot of his patterns are very fast and random, so you're going to have to develop muscle memory through fighting him over and over again. Once you do enough damage, he will fall to the ground, enabling you to riposte him from the front, and then while he's recovering from that, circle behind him and do a couple of attacks to get some extra damage off. Be careful, however, because after he gets up, he usually stomps the ground with his foot and creates a lightning explosion. From there, just finish off whatever sliver of life he has left, and congratulations, you've just defeated the Nameless King, aka Gwyn's Firstborn. That's right, from what I've read on Reddit and numerous other sources as well as item descriptions, the Nameless King is Gwyn's Firstborn, not Solaire. There are some theories that Solaire might actually be the Nameless King's son, or a Knight of the Sunlight. But lore and trivia aside, if you managed to defeat the boss, congratulations. I know you probably died a bunch of times, but I hope this guide has helped you beat the boss, and then you can also go back to Firelink to buy his armor from the Handmaiden, as well as get his weapons from his soul. Anyways guys, thank you for supporting this video. If you'd like to see more Dark Souls 3 stuff by me, you can check out my full Dark Souls 3 playthrough, and I'll put a link for that in the description. See you guys next time.